Yeah, so the bearish view is really contingent on going into a medical conference this week where they're going to unveil the full data set. And I would say, while the stock rating has changed, I was pretty bearish even with the initial data. What effectively happened here is Biogen brought back from the dead an asset that failed in two large phase 3 studies and are now saying that they think they have a data package that they could submit to the FDA to get commercial approval by the end of next year. And, I would say my downgrade is basically calling their bluff on that. We do not think that data validates anything anywhere near receiving approval from the FDA. We're going to wind up seeing a more comprehensive data set this Thursday at a medical conference called CTAD in San Diego. And we think the response to that among physicians and subsequently from physicians seeing the data, investors will be very negative.
So how much more could you see? Do you think the stock could fall from here if the data on Thursday shows that it actually doesn't slow down the process of memory loss?
Well, I think you look at where the stock was before the data. It was trading in kind of the 220, 230 range. So, if the full expectation was baked in that it was getting rejected, that's how much we think it could fall. Realistically, the company's going to submit either way. There's still going to be ambiguity about the pathway to the FDA, but we certainly think we could see, a 5% to 10% down move on the data.
Taking a step back, we've seen a number of new deals in the healthcare and biotech space. Most recently, Novartis shelling out $10 billion for medicines. Do you think this has to do with the 2020 election, the prospect of Elizabeth Warren becoming the next president, or is there something else behind this rise in M&A activity?
I think the rise in M&A activities is really contingent on a lot of these pharma companies just building up tremendous balance sheets, but not really having that much exciting in their internal R&D, and having to seek, those better R&D efforts from the biotech world. I actually think that M&A is probably slowed down by the potential risks of the election. It's very hard to build out potential future cash flow projections when you really don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen with drug prices. So we think, depending on who winds up being president, that could accelerate or decelerate M&A next year.
What is it in the data that you expect to hear on Thursday that has you so concerned? In other words, how do you go from a very positive reaction to preliminary data, I guess, to what you anticipate is going to be a very negative reaction to what's in the more fuller data set?
Yeah, so I think what we'll see is a better characterization of what the actual efficacy advantage is for this drug, as well as a more comprehensive safety database. What we've heard right now is that they have a 23% improvement relative to placebo in loss of a particular marker called CDR sum of the boxes. When I think they actually characterize what that 23% means in terms of a numerical advantage, people are going to be really, really disappointed.
A numerical advantage in terms of what? In terms of memory loss or in terms of clinical organic measures, I guess.
And that's part of the nuance here. It's using this battery called CDR sum of the boxes that is meant to detect really, really minor changes in a person's overall cognitive and functional capability. And this is going to be a really small difference, one that we think you would not perceive in a person if you saw that change in them. That's how small it is. This isn't slowing down mortality or progression to dementia. The best case scenario in this data set is that you have something that is more or less negligible as a treatment effect. And that's going to weigh up against the safety profile. This drug is not benign from a safety perspective, and they really haven't fully characterized the safety profile for our benefit from these studies. If there's any hair on that, we think it's really going to pale in comparison to the what the perceived efficacy benefit that's very small is here.
We'll be watching that data on Thursday.